your cartoon background, but what is your favorite sort of non-famous slash mainstream superhero character that average people probably would not really know about?
I mean, I don't know if manga counts, but otherwise, if it does, it would be the Guyver.
God damn it.
There's a
Guyver's
Mark
awesome.
Isn't there a Mark Hamill movie?
Oh
with
yeah,
the
Matt's
Guyver?
seen
Oh,
it.
Jesus.
Mark Hamill turns into a giant cockroach.
I could tell you this story.
Isn't there
so,
rapping in that too? Don't the weird grotesque monsters rap?
I don't know if I think there's a guy that, or the kind of maybe has a few rhymes, but no one breaks out an actual song. I don't think.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I've watched it.
yeah,
It
my
sounds like
memory of
something
that
it could have done.
is I was like I don't know why I was hanging out at Steve's house while he was working. Steve was like
Oh
working.
no, it was we came home from filming Outpost Doom, and you had been locked out of your grandma's house, and so it's like you had
Oh,
had
yeah,
to,
that's right.
you had to crash with me for the night, and the next morning I had to go to work, and you had nothing else to do but hang out.
Yeah. So like, I'm just sort of sitting there on the couch, and Steve's got the Guyver. I'm like, okay, I'll watch this. Oh my god, that's a traumatic experience for me. I was like,
I love that movie. I fucking love that movie. I do not fucking care what people think about it.
fucking A, the Guyver. No. I will tell you my favorite superhero that very few people have heard of is Darkhawk. Have either of you guys heard of Darkhawk?
Nope.
Name sounds real
Oh,
familiar.
man,
Is he like a squadrons? No, that's not.
No,
it's not Darkhawk.
he had like this amulet that was like in his chest that glowed. He had kind of like he almost looked kind of like a robot in his costume. I thought Darkhawk was so rad when I was a kid, and nobody knows who the hell that character is. I think he had a run of like 20
I'm gonna
issues.
Look him up.
Darkhawk, yeah.
Darkhawk.
He has to have been in some cartoons or something.
I mean, my answer isn't like it's not legit anymore because the character has since become a fucking annoying internet meme. But like I remember liking this is we sound hipster. I remember liking Deadpool way before the internet got a hold of it. And like when you would tell people that like yeah Deadpool's really cool, and they're like who's that? Occasionally a commenter would go, oh Deadpool's so cool. But yeah, now like now I sound hipster, like one of those music hipsters guys who's like, I liked them much better before they became whips the hair out of my face.
Yeah.
Mainstream. Like yeah. So it used to be Deadpool, but that's no longer because again, yeah, he's a super meme now.
I have that same thing, and mine is though it's a movie. It's Big Trouble in Little China. When I was a kid, everybody made fun of me because I would be like, "That's my favorite movie of all time," and people would laugh. People were like, "That movie sucks." It was not like nobody cared about that movie at all except for me. And now everybody loves Big Trouble in Little China. It's like a cult classic, and I'm just like, I remember the time when I just got nothing but shit when I would tell people, "Oh, Big Trouble in Little China, that's my favorite movie ever. It's glorious. It's great." So yeah, but I can't say that. I'm like, oh, well, I liked it way before it was popular, because then it's like, well, you're just exactly what you said. It's like people don't either believe it or it makes you out to look like you're better than them or something, or trying to be like a hipster, cool dude. But Big Trouble in Little China is mine.
I looked up Darkhawk. Did he have a? I feel like the name looks familiar and the guy looks familiar, but I don't know that I've ever read a comic. Did he have a cartoon or anything, or was it just comics?
If I never saw him in a cartoon,
All right.
but I can't imagine he wasn't at some point in something. But I love Darkhawk.
Trying to see, has he been in
better
any
than
other
Guyver.
media?
Let's see. In other media,
that's fine.
Darkhawk makes a non-speaking cameo in Fantastic Four. Robotic versions of Darkhawk appear in Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh no, he's been in some video games, but it doesn't look like he's been really in anything else. So that explains why no one knows who he is.
I gotta start folding some of these garbage hands instead of playing with them. Guyver's awesome.
Nope. It's really not.
Super awesome. Oh wait, that movie is garbage. The actual
Okay.
like the animes and the which you don't like also. Love the animes. Love the handful of mangas that I've read.
I couldn't even get through the Star Wars anime that they put up on Disney Plus. I could not even make it through that. So that should tell you how much I can't. I just can't take anime. Can't
I
take
get it.
I mean, I get it for different reasons. Like, you know, once you've watched enough anime for after a little bit, you realize that, you know, they're fundamentally, with very few exceptions, all the same, because they all have, like, you know, the same, like, 5 or 6 generic stereotypes that are going to be in it. You know, the villains are usually, there's always going to be that one villain type character. They're all telling the same story, more or less. It gets kind of tiresome after a little bit.
I was telling Steve before he popped on, Ronan, that I don't think he would like Season 3 of The Mandalorian.
I haven't heard anything on it, which is, I don't mean that in the bad or good way. Nothing about it has popped up on YouTube, so I haven't even seen any kind of clickbait kind of headline about how it's like, oh, season 3 is in I haven't seen anything like that in any direction. So when I know the show is done, I'll watch it and we'll see what happens. Going in totally neutral, true neutral.
I'll be curious to see what you think of it. I personally don't think it's anywhere near as good as the first 2 seasons. But we're
that
only
does
halfway
not
through.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does not surprise me.
But I've been ruined by Andor. Good Star Wars has now ruined me. And even Rachel was talking about it. She's just like you watch Andor and the writing of that is just brilliant. It's brilliant. And then you watch like Mandalorian and you're like, this was cool before I knew what good Star Wars writing was.
It's a shame that nothing Andor does matters because he's not referenced whatsoever in the original trilogy or subsequent trilogy.
Everything he does matters, Steve. Everything he does.
Not enough for his name to be remembered. I remember, like, this is related to that, but I remember reading articles, like, right after Rogue One came out, and it was basically like, Rogue One paints the heroes of A New Hope in such a shitty light because and this is, you know, the problem with prequels, it's like, you had this team that sacrificed themselves to basically set up the heroes for victory throughout the original trilogy, and it's like, no one even mentions their names. Like, they are just completely forgotten, but that's just the way that prequels work.
Well, I think there's also a point to that where it's like, you wouldn't even know who those people were. Like, they were just, like, how many people know the names of random rebels who did things throughout history? I mean, it's like, yeah, there's always a group of people that does something really, really important that helps further whatever, but we don't know their names. No one remembers their names. They remember they did something, but they don't necessarily remember their names. And I can totally see, like,
Yep.
especially ever like in Rogue One, it's like, who's Jyn Erso? Like, none of those characters would know who Jyn Erso was.
I don't know who she is until you mentioned her name. I'm like, oh yeah, the chick with the daddy issues. That's right. Fuck.
Like, nobody would know that stuff. But and for better or worse, I know there were a lot of rumors going around like, well, Dave Filoni is going to retcon the sequel trilogy. They're
That
gonna...
would make me get back into Star Wars. It seems like he's not going to do that, but if
Oh,
they
no.
did that,
Season 3.
If he came out, and I've heard the rumors about season 3 of The Mandalorian and what they're setting up and what it's going to cross over with, but like if someone came out, someone high up at Disney came out and said, you know what, episodes 8 and 9 were so shitty that we are just going to redo them, that would get me back into Star Wars.
They should do that, but they ain't gonna.
I remember like this was about the point, like this was just at the point where I went to my YouTube feed and told the YouTube algorithm to stop feeding me like these videos, but from these particular channels. But I remember seeing channels where they were like, when it was Mandalorian season 2 and like Book of Boba Fett came out, and they were certain that, like, okay, Mandalorian season, because Luke Skywalker takes Grogu, and Grogu is nowhere to be found in the Disney trilogy, which is how they refer to it, the Kathleen Kennedy trilogy, or whatever derogatory term they like to use for it. So I was like, so that means that what they're gonna do, Book of Boba, like, they're gonna set up how they're going to introduce the Veil, and that's how they're going to retcon the new trilogy from existence, and then they'll use their man baby words for Mary Jane, like Rey or whatever, and because they're going to get rid of it. There's a huge civil war going on in Lucasfilms, and they're about to undo all this shit, and men with penises are going to be in charge of Star Wars again, and then Book of Boba Fett, because it's like, okay, well, here's the thing: if Grogu stays with Luke Skywalker, then that means that okay, they have to retcon the sequel the Disney trilogy, because Grogu is nowhere to be found. And then of course Grogu leaves, and they're just like, that was the moment where all these man babies just got so fucking pissed and was like, this is it, it's dead, I'm never watching Star Wars again. I haven't watched any of their channels in like a year and a half or so, but I fucking bet you they watched Obi-Wan and they watched Andor and they made videos on it because they need those fucking clicks. But yeah, I remember those rumors about they introduced the Veil specifically to do this, and they're going to retcon these shitty movies because of it. And it's like,
yeah.
no, they aren't.
Season 3 is so. The thing Dave Filoni did for the Star Wars prequels, with the Clone Wars and all of that stuff, actually fleshing out the reasons why all this stuff happened that George Lucas just didn't tell in the movies, they're doing the same thing for the sequel trilogy. They're setting up, okay, somehow Palpatine returned, and they're setting up everything that happens, and it's clear, it's very clear that Grogu is not going to be a Jedi whatsoever, which is probably going to explain why he was not around during the sequel trilogy, because I actually saw an interesting theory from a YouTuber, and he was like, the show's called The Mandalorian, and everybody assumed it's Din Djarin, he's the Mandalorian, so the show's about him. And this YouTuber was like, actually, if you pay any attention to this, the Mandalorian, in their opinion, refers to Grogu, because they're like, Grogu basically shows up in episode 1, and everything in the show has been leading to Grogu making the choice and choosing to be a Mandalorian rather than a Jedi, culminating obviously in Book of Boba Fett and all that stuff. So there's actually the argument that people are saying is the Mandalorian is not actually about Din Djarin.
Can't imagine him in the Mandalorian armor.
Well, you better start imagining it, Steve. That's all I'll say. You better start imagining it.
Yeah,
or I could just not watch any of it because I think it's stupid.
Someday you guys will have to watch Andor. In all seriousness, I think you guys will love that show. It's incredible.
I have told you, Matt. I've already made the deal with you. If you watch every episode of Cowboy Bebop from start to finish,
how many are there?
I will watch.
26 probably.
Yeah, I will watch every episode of Andor.
God, I don't know if I could get through.
See, that's what we like.
Just the art style. That's the problem. I'm sure the story's great.
A couple years from now, like Ronan and I will do a Star Wars show about Andor to counterpoint everything that you and Rachel say about it.
It is easily. Oh fuck it! I'm doing it. It is easily the best thing since Empire Strikes Back. Best written, best acted, best everything. And even Rachel and I, when we were talking, because obviously we're watching the Bad Batch. Bad Batch this season's been really, really great. Especially how they show how the Empire got rid of the clones, the clone troopers, and replaced them and all that. Some great storytelling's actually going on in Star Wars right now. But then it's like, okay, now I've seen good Star Wars. Why is the storytelling so bad this season on The Mandalorian? Why is the dialogue so hokey? It's like it doesn't need to be this way. Oh, thank God.
My question would be, why did a bunch of shit Star Wars have to precede supposedly the greatest thing in the history of Star Wars?
There is no excuse for what they did with Obi-Wan. I mean, I'll give you guys that 100%. I mean, they fucked
It goes
up Obi-Wan
beyond.
Kenobi. That
It goes beyond Obi-Wan. That you're
Book of
focusing
hold
on
on.
that.
I said Book of Boba Fett is not great. Ultimately, I liked it, but even when we did a review, I said there's a lot of problems with it.
It goes
But-
beyond the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. That.
Well, okay, I think you guys would agree that the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian are great. I think you guys would agree that 1/3 of the Book of Boba Fett was great. I think that
No.
what,
You'd be
2
mistaken.
episodes. 2 episodes are all about the Mandalorian.
2 episodes are really good.
Yeah, exactly. 1/3. What was there? 6 episodes? Of that 1/3 of the show was great.
No, really good, not great. I will make it and that's not even just to derail you specifically. It's like the first season of Book of Mandalorian is great. It's a space western. It's so good. The second season is pretty good, but it makes the Marvel trap where it's like the show suffers because it has to set up the fact that, like, oh, guess what, we're going to get a Boba Fett show. Oh, guess what, here's Ahsoka, she's going to get her show. Oh shit, here's Luke Skywalker being a badass. We're sorry we fucked him over, fans of the movies. Yeah, it's like too much shit gets shoved in there and takes away from the plot. So I like it. It's like season 2 is a good season. It's not as good as the first season, but it's pretty good. I
Disagree. Disagree. I don't think they pigeonholed Luke Skywalker in there, because you don't even see Luke Skywalker until like the last scene of the final episode of season 2. Boba Fett, he shows up, yes, but no one knew there was going to be a Boba Fett show until like the stinger of the final season or final episode of season 2. So it wasn't like ooh, we can't wait for a Boba Fett show. No one even had any idea there was a Boba Fett show coming. It was a complete shock and surprise.
Again, Mandalorian sets that up.
But it works for the story. But when Boba Fett's introduced, it works for the story.
At the very least, I'll give you that part of it. That one works a little bit better. But again, it goes deeper than those 2 shows. You have their failed attempt to make this huge cinematic movie universe where it's like Force Awakens. That's a solid movie.
Yep.
That's
a win.
Yeah, that's the one win.
Rogue One's
from the
good.
Disney.
Rogue One is a good movie.
Rogue One.
It's a good movie. I would even argue that Solo is a good movie. I think Solo is a very fun movie. I think Alden Ehrenreich did a good job as Han Solo. Is there stupid shit in it? Yes. But I think it's a fun, good Star Wars film.
Of course you do.
I think The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker are unforgivable sins. Those are just trash beyond repair. And I will admit to that. But I don't, like, for example, I know you guys don't watch like the Bad Batch and stuff, but or watch the Clone Wars, but like they released that final season of Clone Wars at season 7. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible.
I watched the Clone Wars, because it was in Netflix, and I was just like not the whole thing, because when I watched it, this was years ago. This was back when I think they like Nickelodeon, well not Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. That's right. Cartoon Network had just canceled it, and then Netflix picked it up, and Netflix like paid for like what at that point was like the final season. And I watched all of that, and then Disney Plus picked it up, and Disney Plus added another season. So that season, I have not watched.
Yeah, well, the reason why they picked, or Disney Plus did that last season is because it got canceled. The show got canceled when it was on Cartoon Network, and they had planned one more season of it. And it never came to fruition, and so all the plot threads were just kind of left dangling. And then when Disney Plus started, Dave Filoni's like, can you pretty please let me finish out the story here? And then they allowed him to finish out that story. But all the stuff they did with Darth Maul, like Rebels, that show was great. The Bad Batch is great. Like, there's tons of great Star Wars content coming out. But everyone focuses on they fucked up Obi-Wan, they fucked up Boba Fett, and two of the sequel films are garbage, therefore Star Wars is trash. We hate it, we never want to engage with it again.
We're forgetting about the trash prequel trilogy, too, so, I mean, thus at least,
Not
you
trash.
know...
Not trash.
Very trash, very
no,
trash. So
the prequel trilogy is not trash.
At least, like, yeah, which more or less gives me 4 good Star Wars movies, and like one good, and I'll give Clone Wars is okay, and I can't give it much more than an okay because like the first 3-ish seasons of that show are absolute fucking dog shit.
No.
Just sheer fucking trash. It gets good. It gets good. It really does. Because like, you know, at a certain point I'm just like, when is it? Because it's hurting me too much. I'm just like, because at this point like Legends was still like canon, and it's like, why did they depower Grievous like this? He's killed more Jedi than any other character in like Star Wars canon until Disney bought it and just like completely detoofed him. And then this show he's just like, my understanding was Lucas was like, well, we need a goofy bad guy. Let's have it be Grievous. We can't be Dooku, and that's all it was. But like, so that hurt, and then it's just I also didn't care for like the meanwhile at the Legion of like that kind of like serial tone.
Oh
was going
yeah,
for.
the opening where it's kind of like old timey news reports or something.
Yeah, that's stupid. There is no
I'll give you that.
justification.
That seems it takes you out of it a little bit. You're like, all right, well, this seems weird.
Ahsoka is just unbearable in those first few seasons, but she gets better.
False.
That she's terrible in those first few seasons,
False.
but again, she gets better, and thus the show gets better. But at the same time, it never really sunk its teeth into me. But I did enjoy the stuff. Like, okay, they're bringing in like the planet of Mandalore, and you get that whole civil war, and it's like, oh well, like Darth Maul comes back, and it seems to kind of make sense. They do it in a way where it's not stupid. Like, okay, I can get into some of this. Okay, this is getting better.
Realize that the Clone Wars, other than the final season of it that Disney Plus put out, season 7, I think, that's all George Lucas. George Lucas was the one who started the Clone Wars cartoon series because he wanted to use it to flesh out all the story that he had that he didn't show in the prequels. And so, like, if you get on YouTube, you can find clips like Dave Filoni is basically his right-hand man, but it's like George Lucas, he's up there with the storyboards, and he's saying, this, I want this to happen, this to happen, this to happen. So, you know, when Star Wars fans say how much they love Dave Filoni, it's because Dave Filoni is actually someone who, you know, understands Star Wars in a way that a lot of people don't. Like, whoever the fuck made the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show.
George. Yes.
No, I didn't say he understands it better than him. I just said that he understands.
I will say that.
How dare you speak ill of the creator? But yeah, I'm still bitter about that Obi-Wan show. Fucking A. God damn it. Darth Vader stopped by a wall of flame.
That he just put out 3 seconds before.
So stupid. And that's my problem so far. Like, I like this season of The Mandalorian.
God damn it. Son of a fucking fuck.
Did you fold some jacks?
I'm, I'm not. I'm like I've been advised by legal counsel to not say that I folded a 3 of a kind because that might help you two assholes. But
I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm out.
okay, yeah, I folded to Jack.
Yeah, but that's what the Obi-Wan Kenobi show did with stupid characters doing stupid things to make plot stuff happen. That's kind of what's happening right now in season 3 of The Mandalorian, and it's just kind of like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we doing this?
Well, I want to let you know, I've been total complete neutral. Haven't heard anything one way or the other on Mandalorian until right now. So you are actively painting it in a negative picture. You are going out of your way to make sure that when I watch it, I tell you this show sucks, Matt.
Well,
Star Wars sucks.
Star Wars doesn't suck. I'm just being honest. I'm saying, like, it's not bad. I don't hate it. So I think we're four episodes in of 8, and there is still no plot line for this season. So we'll give you. I mean, that's what you can expect. There's no real, like, they resolve everything. Everything you're wondering, like, oh, Mando's plot, like, what's he gonna? It's all resolved in the first 2 episodes. And then the rest of it so far is just, hey, we're hanging out, we're doing nothing of importance, and it's just weird. It's very weird. And then they do an episode that is very Book of Boba Fett, where it starts out Mandalorian for 2 minutes, and then it completely switches to something completely different, a whole different show, different characters that you haven't seen since season 1. No Mando, no anything. Just here's 45 minutes of this, and you're just like, what? It's weird. It's just the way that they're presenting the story is very strange to me.
I think it would be pretty. I think it would be pretty funny if, like, 2 episodes of Mandalorian season 3 are actually dedicated to the Book of Boba Fett and the fucking scooter and the Power Rangers scooter gang.
That would be
or
funny.
Something stupid like that.
I wouldn't put it past.
I've decided I'm not watching Mandalorian season 3 at all. Like, I was telling Matt before you joined, it's like I had planned on watching Mando season 3, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized, like, I'm good with Mandalorian as a 2-season series, because it's the beginning of season 1, goals are laid out for Mando, get Grogu back to his people. At the end of season 2, his goals were achieved. Like, that's a complete story. Like, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid conclusion, but no, like, you know, Grogu was too fucking cute, and that Disney has to keep selling those toys!
They used someone else's show to reestablish the status quo.
Yeah, man.
Such a weird decision.
I remember that. Yeah, that pissed me off so much. It's completely like, even if you're going to do that, if that's the plan all along, Grogu's going to come back. At the very least, milk season 3 for like 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah, so
like,
I'm curious, Matt. Like, I'm assuming there have to be people out there that only watched Mandalorian and didn't watch Boba Fett. Is there I also had a Full House that I bailed on. Is there, like, a previously on Boba Fett to let those people know, hey, Grogu is back, the end of Mandalorian season 2 actually didn't matter at all?
Hilarious that you ask that. So I was very curious as to, you know, like, my mom watched Mandalorian, but she didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, right? So I'm like, okay, season 3, episode 1, I fire it up. And it's always like previously on The Mandalorian, and it talks about stuff in season 1, talks about some stuff in season 2, and then immediately starts season 3. It does not mention Book of Boba Fett at all. It does not mention Luke Skywalker. It does not mention what happened, that Grogu made a choice to come back. You have no fucking idea why they're suddenly together. And to make this even weirder, is Jon Favreau came out and said it's been like 2 to 3 years since the end of Book of Boba Fett, when Grogu got back together with Mando. Like,
so
there's
a time jump.
There's like this weird, according to Jon Favreau, there's this weird time jump that has occurred. But no, they provide no context for anybody who didn't watch Book of Boba Fett. you'd probably have to jump online and be like, "What the hell happened here?" Last I saw, he went off with
Wow.
Luke Skywalker. It's
That
weird.
is really poor storytelling.
I wonder because like Mandalorian season 3 was probably like more or less put in development and made during like what was his name, Bob Chapek or whatever.
Yeah, Chapek.
During his administration, and like that's why they brought back what's his name? Iger, is that him?
Yeah, Bob Iger.
Because like Chapek more or less had destroyed all of their franchises because like it's like I believe it was his initiation like we're going to push we're going to have like 17,000 TV shows and 64 movies and they're all going to tie together so it's going to be one condensed universe so you have to keep streaming. We're going to make so much fucking content. So I wonder if this was like a holdover decision from the previous administration to thus force you to watch the Book of Boba Fett.
What they should have said is somehow Grogu returned.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. I mean, there's no. And maybe there's been outcry, right? And maybe they've changed for Disney Plus and are now putting it up. But I know when Rachel and I reviewed that first episode, we were shocked that they didn't even mention Luke Skywalker on the previously on The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett. No mention whatsoever. Because even if you were like, okay, well, there's no reason to not mention it. Because why wouldn't you want to get viewers who have not watched Book of Boba Fett yet to go and watch it at that point? Because it seems like you would be like, previously on the Book of Boba Fett. And then like, oh, Grogu and Mando are in that? Well, let me go watch that show. You're not even like promoting your own shows on your own service, which connects everything. It's weird.
This sounds like how we both really loved seasons 1 and 2 of Arrow, and then seasons 1 and 2 of The Flash, and then in both shows, season 3 turned to absolute garbage.
Yeah, it does. Well, now let me take a sec. Season 3 is not absolute garbage. What I'm saying
you just
is,
have a really, really difficult time accepting that some of these properties are just hot shit.
It's not garbage. What I'm saying is, compared to season 1 and 2, it's a disappointment so far. Now I don't even know how they're going to end this thing because they blaze through every loose end that you could possibly imagine with Mando, other than what's the Darksaber? How's that all going to resolve? They answer it all in the first 2 episodes. I have no idea where this season is going, so that could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think everyone's just patiently waiting for Thrawn to show up because he's going to be kind of like the Thanos of this whole TV universe, but he hasn't shown up yet. So now we're
again, that's a thing that is set up in The Mandalorian season 2 that they're looking for Thrawn, and like he's going to. Yeah, well, like that's gonna tie back. Like, like Ahsoka's gonna have to formulate like her own Avengers level team to fight off like Thrawn and the remnants of the Empire. And like when he comes back from like the Outer Rim or wherever he fucked off to, in what show was that? Rebels. Yeah, when he fucked off at the end.
Yeah.
Didn't he take the kid with him or something like that?
Ezra. Well, the space whales took him. It's a whole thing. And the space whales show up in Mando season 3.
It's like you said. Well, the space whales took him. Awkward silence, as if you've never said that sentence out loud before.
Sorry, the Purgle took him and Thrawn to the unknown regions of space.
Because it sure seemed like you'd never said that sentence out loud before.
I don't think I actually had.
Said it.
The space whales took him.
Realize how crazy that sounds with no context, and then had to add in.
I'll be right back.
Thing.
I'm going to sit out of hand.
But like he's gonna come back, like in some show, and Ahsoka's gonna have to form the team, which is gonna be a bunch of Mandalorians, probably Luke. He's gonna get some kind of like hero moment, and like well, no, this show happens. I was about to say, and they'll throw Obi-Wan in there too, but no, he's dead at this
he's
point.
dead.
I forgot
Maybe his
the
Force Ghost
timeline.
will show up.
Yeah, I forgot the timeline for a second there. But yeah, and then they're going to bring back some other people from some other shows too, like what's his name from Clone Wars? Rex. That's it. They're going to bring back
Oh, yeah.
super old man Rex, and they're gonna
Rex is in Bad Batch right now. He's doing awesome. Awesome.
and they're gonna do all this other stuff, and they're gonna introduce another like that chick from the first season of Mandalorian that you
Cara
could see
Dune?
no not her no like there was one episode where they were on a planet and there was this
that
chick
girl,
with the
like that love interest. Yeah.
yeah, and we're gonna break because we don't know her name and we don't care, but her name is just gonna be Love Interest. That's literally first name Love, last name Interest, and Thrawn's gonna capture her because she's got the thing with the MacGuffin, and that's gonna mean that Din's gonna have to join the crew, and it's it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, they're all going to get together. They're gonna fly to Tatooine and ask for Boba Fett's help, and him and Fennec are gonna go help out. Yeah, it's all leading to that.
Somehow they're going to get on the Millennium Falcon too. I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet, but it's going to happen for the fan service because people have to jack off while they watch this shit.
This is a really interesting point because when you're dicking around storytelling in this timeline, right, where Luke is alive, clearly we've seen him, Han, Leia, they're all alive, and so if you have a Thrawn level extinction event sort of thing, it becomes harder to explain to me, well, how come Han Solo and Chewbacca aren't helping out on this? Like, what are they doing? They are the greatest heroes in the galaxy. Where are they? It also becomes difficult to be like, well, Luke Skywalker should just be able to show up and fucking take all these people out, right? Like, it's like, well, what's the tension in the drama?
That's why Thrawn's gonna have those weird flying lizard things from the book that somehow nullify the Force. He's gonna have them.
Oh, however, what I will, so obviously all this is sort of leading to the same stuff. So right now the Bad Batch season 2 is on, and the Bad Batch season 2 has it's peppering in all kinds of stuff. Like there's I don't know, do you remember the Zillo Beast, Ronan, from Clone Wars? That giant creature that's like basically immune to the Force, and lightsabers can't cut through its hide, and it was crashing through Coruscant, the Zillo Beast. Well, it's back.
Yeah, okay, I remember that now.
It's back. So in Bad Batch, the Empire has actually like taken one, and they're experimenting with the remnants of what's left of the Kamino cloners, because at the end of season 1 of Bad Batch, the Empire just blew up basically their entire civilization, just mass genocided all of them. And so they're taking all of these various things, like the clone angles. They're taking these sort of creatures in the world, in the universe, that are, for lack of a better term, sort of like immune to Force sort of stuff. I think this is all leading to, we have to find a way to nerf Luke Skywalker. There has to be some way that Luke Skywalker can't immediately land on Thrawn's ship and take him down, because that would be too easy. And I think I don't think they're gonna do the reptile things, but I do think they're going to have some sort of Force dampening ability to try to do that.
Well, that's when you have Ezra come back, and now suddenly, via...
Hang on, are you guys out of this hand?
Yes.
Yes.
Alright, I have 2 pair. Do I go all in here?
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah,
It's
man
only,
up.
you said
Alright,
it's
well,
fake
I'll
money.
call. I'll call it.
Yeah. But so yeah, what they'll do, or like the easiest thing to do is to just have Ezra come back with the Toriyama hand job, and now suddenly Ezra is Super Saiyan Blue for no reason, but he just is because the space whales did it, and now he can face Luke Skywalker.
I like the space whales. Did you win?
Nope.
No, you did not. Okay. So you're pretty excited about that Power Rangers reunion movie, Steve?
Yes, hell yeah. I will get Netflix for a month just to watch that.
So what is the basic premise of this? Like, tell
I have
me
no
what's
idea.
going on.
So all of, like, with very few exceptions, there are like 30 seasons of Power Rangers now, and over those 30 seasons, there have probably been like 25 different Power Ranger teams. With very few exceptions, all of that is meant to take place in the same universe, and so every person that's ever been a Ranger is still a Ranger, and so there are yearly Ranger crossovers, and so at any time, an old Power Ranger can be called back into service, and apparently the original team is getting called back, and that's as much as I know about it. All I know is they're so like the original Yellow Ranger
She's
died.
dead.
She died like decades ago, like just a couple years after the show came out, and they seem to be like, this is the first time I went all in blind. Did I do good?
Wow.
I thought for sure you had like a 7-2 offsuit. And
No,
I
didn't even look. It was just like I've only got like 5,000 chips left. I gotta make a play here. So it seems to be like this is like the first time that they are acknowledging that person is dead. And so in the trailer I saw Rita Repulsa, who has come back because reasons, kills her. That's like actually a big deal. Like there's only one other instance that I'm aware of in like 30 years of Power Rangers where a Power Ranger has been explicitly killed. So it looks like they're killing that character off, and this is kind of like the origin story of that character's daughter taking over the Yellow Ranger power.
Well, I thought, cause I was I remember a few months ago, I was kind of curious, like, what the fuck happens to Zordon? Is he still around any of these shows?
Nope, he got killed like 20 years ago.
Yeah, he dies, and at least the video I was watching, when he dies, or, he kind of explodes or something like that, and it releases this, wave of good energy that, turns Zed and Rita good. Yeah. So I'm guessing that's not
it's Power Rangers. Power Rangers has kind of a fuzzy idea of continuity because
no,
I don't know how else to put it. So it's like the first the first 5 to 6 seasons of Power Rangers are one continuous story, and then after that, they started doing what Japan does with their equivalent of Power Rangers, which is like every year it's a brand new Power Rangers team, but America didn't implement that until 5 or 6 years in. So the first 5 or 6 years is one continuous story, and the end of that story is Zordon convinces the Red Ranger of the time to kill Zordon to release this energy wave. What doesn't make any sense then is, where do all of these new bad guys afterwards come up from? Because, like you said, this energy wave was supposed to destroy all evil, except we're 25 years in and evil has clearly not all been destroyed.
So when you say that these I watched one episode of Power Rangers, and that was probably about 4 or 5 months ago. Melissa and I were sitting there on TV, like, hey, let's watch the first episode of Power Rangers. I don't even know what it was on. It was something.
Day of the Dumpster, and that was a bad call.
So bad.
That was a...
Because I told Melissa, I was like, Steve's really into this. Well, I've never watched one. Let's watch this. And we were just Steve
was 10 years old when that came out. It had
you still love it, Steve.
And I do because of nostalgia. I'm not telling you it's good.
Yeah, it's like if you go back and rewatch like the first like 5 episodes of Ninja Turtles from the 80s, that
bad.
shit super doesn't hold up. But
Yeah,
like
they're bad.
8-year-old me was like knee deep in his own cum watching
The
that
own-
shit.
I don't want to hear about 8-year-old cum.
Yeah, Ronan, what were you doing at 8 years old, buddy?
Clearly I was being
only-
knee deep in my own cum watching Ninja Turtles.
The only
Duh, I just told you.
The only 80s and 90s cartoon that I watched growing up that holds up is the real Ghostbusters.
I was
Everything
about
else
to
is
say
like,
Ghostbusters does hold up.
I cannot. There's nothing else from that era that I can watch and still with a straight face say, yeah, this is good. I like this.
I like Tales from the Crypt Keeper. I don't know if you guys ever watched that, but I thought that was a really good show.
I remember. I don't
I think it
remember
holds
any
up.
specific episodes, but I know I watched it.
I'd be curious if stuff like I'd wager a bit like Tiny Toon Adventure still holds up because Animaniacs holds up, and that's more or less like the same group. So I would wager a bet that still holds up.
So getting back to my question. So the original Power Rangers are coming back. In Power Ranger continuity, have they still been out there beating up bad guys for the past 30 years, or are they like retired and then they're just like, hey, you got to come back into active duty because there's a big threat, so change into your costumes and do something? Like, are there
know
1,000
Jason-
Power Rangers running around doing shit,
No,
or is it
not,
like John
not all
Wick
the time.
universe?
There are. It's never quite explained why anytime a giant monster shows up, they don't just call every ranger that's still out there. It's just something that you've got to go with.
Well, they
but
gotta
no,
be fair, Steve.
They're not actively rangers. They just get called back into service as needed. The only kind of semi explanation is most Power Rangers are equipped. Most Power Ranger teams are equipped to handle a certain villain. And so there are arguments that this original team of Power Rangers just couldn't do much against the bad guy from like season 10 Power Rangers. But no, they have not constantly been out there fighting for 30 years. But there's also not really an explanation for why not.
Well, like I know, so is Jason David Frank in this in this thing? Because like I know he's dead now, but was he alive when they were making this?
He was alive when they were making it, but I read that he declined to be in it, and I don't know why. In the trailers, you see a Green Ranger, but no one has any idea if that's him or if that's meant to be that character, and he's just not going to take his helmet off. In the comics, he has a kid, so there's a lot of rumors that they're going to introduce Tommy's son or whoever in this show.
Because I know Tommy Oliver. Read 'em and weep, bitches.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I know Tommy Oliver has been like a reoccurring ranger who still actively does stuff over the years because he's got producing rights over Power Rangers now. He got embedded deep into this shit, which is good for him.
Still, as of just a couple years ago, was still making cameos. Like I said, all of the Rangers out there, most of them anyway, still have their powers. They can be called on as needed. It's just, if there were 100 active Power Rangers at any one given all at once, no bad guy would ever have a chance.
How do the Power Rangers, like, how do I want to phrase this without it sounding stupid? So
Space whales.
Space whales. Let's say I'm a Power Ranger, right? So a bad guy shows up here, Lincoln. Is it like a radio? They say, hey, suit up, you gotta go do this. Do I just choose of my own free will? Like, hey, I'm gonna turn into a Power Ranger now and go kick some ass. Like, what are the steps in which I can then go do something as a Power Ranger?
To become a Power Ranger, or to be alerted that there's trouble, or
both.
Your wristwatch is gonna go off. You're gonna hear beep 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 beep, and you got Alpha's gonna tell you that there's a giant monster, and you're like, oh shit! And then suddenly there's gonna be a camera transition, and you're gonna be downtown. You're gonna grab your
nothing
morphin
Ronan's
belt.
saying is helpful. every Power Rangers team.
Walk me through Power Rangers, Steve.
Every Power Rangers team tends to have like a mentor of some sort that like just kind of monitors things and lets the Rangers know there's trouble here. Go with the bad guy. Like Zordon was that in the first season.
Okay.
I mean, my explanation works well.
Okay, so the original Power Ranger team, they're going to get called into action. Somebody's going to tell them they need to be called back into action, right?
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. I didn't know if it was just like, oh sweet, bad guy.
And also,
let me
like,
snap my fingers and now I'm Power Ranger and kick some ass.
No, like a new, like kind of probably the more current explanation is, as Ronan just said, the original Green Ranger, that character has continued to be active.
They gave me two in a row.
The original Green Ranger character has continued to like take at least a semi-active role in all of the evil bad guys that have been showing up, and so like basically like the Green Ranger Tommy Oliver is basically like networks with all the Rangers out there.
Okay.
He's been different. He's been lots of different, like, because I know he's been a Green Ranger, White Ranger. I think at some point he was the Black Ranger, Red Ranger.
Yeah, he's been 5 different Rangers.
So okay, this I now have a million questions. So what's like? Is there a top color Ranger? Like how do you become the best Ranger? And what color would I be?
The Red Ranger tends to be the leader of most of the teams.
So he's the best, right? Do they have different powers, like each one of them, or is it just...
Most of them don't. Most of them all just have the same powers, and just for whatever reason, for no other reason other than that's what Japan did, the Red Ranger is typically made the leader. There are a few seasons of Power Rangers where people have, like, powers outside of their ranger forms that differentiate them a little bit, but for the most part they all have the same abilities. It's just for whatever reason whoever is designated as the leader is Red.
Okay, so what's the difference between in this season I'm a Black Ranger and in this season I'm a White Ranger? Is there any...
Well, so are you talking about Tommy? Because
I don't know what I'm talking about. I've never seen this shit. I'm trying to figure out all the colors and why they would change different colors.
It sounds like you're bringing up fucking racism, Matt. That's what it sounds like.
It's just the one character, the original Green Ranger, who has been multiple different Rangers. Most Power Rangers stay in their lane.
Why is he special? Why does he get all the different colors of the rainbow?
Because the actor was willing to sign a contract and keep coming back. Now, in universe, he was originally the original Green Ranger, and then basically the bad guys won in a fight against him and took his powers away, and then Zordon created a new Power Ranger form, the White Ranger, and gave it to him, and then that was it. Like, from that point forward, basically the first like 5 or 6 years of the show, the bad guys actually kept winning, and so the Power Rangers would have to go and continue to find upgraded powers to keep up with the bad guys, and it's just he continued to be on the teams that were getting upgraded.
Okay. That's all the questions I had, thank you.
Yeah, happy to help. The bad guys in like the original like first 5 or 6 seasons of Power Rangers, the bad guys had pretty good track records towards the end of the seasons. Like, the Power Rangers got curb stomped frequently, and then they would go and be like, oh, there's these other Power Rangers abilities out there. Go find the new Power Rangers abilities, and that's going to, make you be able to fight. That's kind of going back to what I said, where like most Power Ranger teams are created to fight like a specific set of bad guys.
Okay, that makes sense. In a
like
way.
there's a Power Ranger team out there whose powers are based on magic. So logically, they fight bad guys who have their powers based in magic. There's a team whose powers are like very heavily like technology based, and so they fight like robot bad guys.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's sort of like, you wouldn't have Daredevil fight Mephisto.
Yeah.
You'd have Doctor Strange fight Mephisto. You wouldn't have Iron Man fighting Mephisto necessarily. So yeah, that all makes sense.
Oh, I mean, Iron Man fights like 10 like what's his name
That's true. The Mandarin.
with the 10
Yeah, that's
rings.
true. The 10 rings. Yeah, you got me there. I forgot about that.
Although
What's the-
Mephisto is a step up from that, several steps really.
What
a lot
is,
of
what
steps.
is what's the main power of a Power Ranger? Like, what are their abilities? If I was a Power Ranger, Steve, what could I do?
Camera cut jumping. That's one. You just kind of jump into the air. There's a camera cut, and now suddenly you're in downtown Angel Grove.
Well, do they
So
have
that's
like
one power.
like shoot lasers or energy out of their
No.
fists, or it's just
They-
karate?
they-
or
they
what
would-
is it?
They don't have superpowers. I guess they don't.
No, they have increased strength and speed.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
stuff,
it's
right?
basically just like being a Power Ranger is like a power boost. You're tougher, faster, stronger, and whatnot. Most of them just have weapons though, but like Power Rangers can't fly. None of them have like eye lasers or anything like that. Like they don't have what we would typically think of as superpowers, other than just being like stronger and tougher.
Okay.
And the ability to jump into a camera cut.
And what made little Steve love the Power Rangers so much?
They had giant robots, and I love Transformers.
Okay.
Giant robots, giant monsters, and I was watching Godzilla, so I was like, you bet your ass cheek that my Godzilla toys would have to beat up my Power Ranger Zord toys.
Have you ever, Matt? Have you ever watched the Angry Video Game Nerd did like an episode of Power Rangers? But he's also talked about like kind of the same thing you did. Like one day you just decided to watch an episode, and so James Rolfe is like, he's got, I don't know if it's part of the AVGN episode or if it's a separate video, but at one point he did something where he was like, I kind of watched Power Rangers on a whim, and it turned out to be like Godzilla. It was giant robots and giant monsters and colorful superheroes. He was kind of like blown away. It ticked a lot of boxes for a lot of kids that maybe probably like slept on the show.
Yeah, I mean, like Power Rangers is at least in its Japanese origin. Like it got edited for America, and they did like all kinds of different stuff with it. But like in its Japanese form, yeah, it's there's all like I forget the name of the genre that they call it over there.
Sentai.
Yeah, Super Sentai. Although I thought Super Sentai was the name of like that's what Power Rangers is called in Japan.
I thought it was all kind of called Sentai, because there's also like the
There's
Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider. There's Ultraman, but it's more or less this is a whole thing in Japan where it's like you'll get like a guy who gets these powers and a cool suit, who will then fight monsters. Like Ultraman, he grows big and then he can fight the giant monsters. And like Godzilla, the literal Godzilla was in several Ultraman cartoons, fighting alongside Ultraman because of course he did. It was like the weird, super silly '60s Godzilla who would like jump and dance and do wrestling moves. but Godzilla, like Ultraman, that's more or less just like guy beating up giant monster suits. Power Rangers, that's people in suits fighting monsters. Monster grows big, and then it's transforming robots. So you get the Godzilla aspect, you get the Transformer aspect, and you get the guys flipping around doing kung fu shit aspect of it. There's a lot of things for a kid to super gravitate towards in this stuff.
Yeah, I guess I just never watched it when I was a kid. I don't know when did it first premiere? Because I always have a recollection of it being like
93, 94, something like that.
Okay, because my recollection of Power Rangers was like I was in high school, and I was like, that's too, like I'm too old for something like this at that point. But maybe it was a lot earlier. It was not on my radar. I didn't get it back then.
No, I'm pretty sure it was like 93, 94 or something like that.
I'm looking it up.
Because I was in like elementary school.
Well, I was born in 81, so 93. I
Well,
would have been 12 or 13.
This Netflix thing is the 30th anniversary, so it would have been 93.
Woo!
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I never crossed my radar until I was older. I want to say it was mid 90s. I want to say like 95, 96, 97. That's when I was like aware, because it was a phenomenon. I do remember it being like this cultural phenomenon.
That's probably the thing that dethroned Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, maybe. I love Ninja Turtles. Like when I was a kid, like Ninja Turtles was my thing. I remember my mom, she worked at a candy store in the Redlands Mall, and there was a toy store. It was probably a KB Toys, I would imagine. That was across the way, and she made friends with the KB Toys people there, and they would let her go through they get shipments of boxes of the new Ninja Turtle toys, and she would go there before KB opened, and they would open up the boxes and let my mom go through the boxes to find all of the Ninja Turtles before they'd actually put them out on the shelves. It was great. It was a great time. Great time in my life.
Hell of a time. Hell of a time to have that white privilege. Hell of a time.
Yes. But yeah, Ninja Turtles was my thing when I was a kid. I like Transformers a lot too. G.I. Joe. Those are probably like the big three, was Transformers, G.I. Joe.
I know I watched G.I. Joe as a kid because I had some toys and some coloring books.
But
for the life of
G.I.
me,
Joe movie.
For the life of me,
trash,
I can't.
and I love it.
And for the life of me, I can't remember much of anything about the TV show.
Hey,
I
I
really
don't.
man. Masters of the Universe 2. I watched a lot of that.
I never watched original He-Man. I did like the 2000 like Cartoon Network reboot. Did
Yeah,
you guys watch like the? I have read about this multiple times, and I have zero recollection of this ever being a thing. But like apparently in like the last 3 seasons of Ninja Turtles, like I didn't even realize that it went for 10 seasons, but like seasons 8 to 10, like Shredder, Crane, Bebop, Rocksteady, like all of the original villains were just gone, and they introduced brand new bad guys called like Lord Dreg or something.
Yeah.
I have no memory of any of that.
The turtles' mutation was starting to go crazy, so they were turning into like weird, weird monster turtles occasionally. So Donnie was having to work on changing that. I watched some of that stuff, because
I was getting too old by that point. Yeah, I would catch it occasionally.
That's what I meant. Like
it was just
I
kind of
never
hard
watched
to...
any of that. When we're done with Spartacus, let's go through the final seasons of Ninja Turtles that none of us are familiar with.
Oh my god!
If it's available to stream,
yeah, is it
I'm down for this because there was a James Rolfe thing about it, like how like the original Ninja Turtles TV show is a royal fucking pain in the ass to find all. But I don't know what it is about Ninja Turtle shows and why they don't just put them out in like a box set. Here is this series of Ninja Turtles, all in one box set, because it's like here's like the first 6 seasons of Ninja Turtles. Oh, this other company did like seasons 7 and 8. Oh, but the rest of these seasons were done by this. It's a pain in the ass to fucking find them. I'm down for this idea if we can find them online in a way that doesn't involve Jeff.
No, it's like it looks like we have to.
I'm looking right here.
No, that's not even. There's so many damn Ninja Turtle series now that it's hard to find. It's like, what do I tell my computer to specify that I want 1990s Turtles?
Okay, I'm looking at the Wikipedia.
How do I tell the
now.
Google?
VHS, lasers, DVD. Okay, starting in April 2004, DVD releases began in Region 1. The series has since seen numerous releases as part of DVD compilations. On November 13, 2012, Lionsgate Family Entertainment released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: A Complete Classic Series on DVD. The 23-disc set features all 193 episodes of the series as well as bonus features. It also contains special collector's edition packaging. In July of 2013, Lionsgate re-released all 47 episodes of Season 3 together in a 4-disc box set. Video on demand.
It doesn't look like they're streaming on any services. They'd have to be purchased, so maybe this idea isn't going to work.
Lionsgate Home Entertainment has also released each of the seasons in digital format, which are sold separately on several digital platforms such as Amazon and iTunes in standard def only. While Once Upon a Time Machine is included with season 5, Planet of the Turtleoids is included with season 6.
Yeah, like I would, if I could just pay like $15 to buy a season of this to watch, I would do that. But it looks like I can only find it on like Apple TV, and it looks like every episode is individually 99 cents.
How many episodes are in a season?
I also can't find that information.
I don't think it has a set number.
That would be cool to go back to like an old cartoon and revisit the cartoon.
Well, we kind of had that idea for like Two Mats, One Steve of like doing some kind of like nostalgic kind of look back at some of these shows, but the problem is finding them. It's like if I remember we were talking about Batman the animated series, but it's like I don't think like it might be on Paramount or whatever that streaming service is, but I don't know if that's available online anywhere.
Batman the animated series is on HBO Max.
Yeah,
because I was watching it.
Yeah,
probably
I watched
3 or 4 weeks
as well.
ago.
I watched both of the Ninja episodes.
I think I have them all on DVD too in box sets. Somewhere in a tote.
Now, what we should do for like a Two Mats, One Steve is watch the '90s Ninja Turtle movie. Just because,
great, fantastic.
Exactly, yeah. Just for us to nerdgasm as to how good it is, because that movie fucking holds up to this day. It is still fucking good.
I'll watch that. We should watch all 3 of them. Throw Turtles in Time in there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll watch it. I'm just like apparently
do I do this?
The Nickelodeon CG Ninja Turtle show also ran for like 8 or 9 seasons. So I'm trying to find the originals.
I know it wasn't Hulu because I went through and I streamed it all on Hulu. Yeah, that show is like that show is great. That's a great fucking show.
Yep, they're not available on Amazon. Alright, so it looks like if Amazon is to be trusted, like season 8 is only like 8 episodes.
Really? That seems weird.
Yeah. And season 9.
It's not too weird when you consider how that was late in the Turtles' lifespan, and by that point, like Saturday morning cartoons in general were going down. Like it,
yeah.
So according to Amazon, the last 3 seasons of Ninja Turtles were. Oh, why did I click that? There are only 8 episodes apiece, so like we could go to Apple TV or whatever and pay $25 and have the final 3 seasons. If we want to spend money on this, because it doesn't look like these are free anywhere.
Damn, I don't have Apple TV. I don't have all these fucking services.
You should see if anyone's posted them on YouTube. There could be people that like. There's a whole bunch of Tales from the Crypt episodes on YouTube because HBO will not put them on their streaming service. Like that's one of the things that I can't stand. Is like, are you telling me Tales from the Crypt was one of the prestige shows that HBO had in the 80s and 90s, and you cannot find it streaming anywhere?
Yeah, and now they just don't care about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many big stars in that too. I mean, I've read that it's like a rights issue. The people who own Tales from the Crypt, like EC Comics, just refuse to allow HBO to do anything with it, which just seems bizarre to me.
It's as weird. Like, I know it's fucked up, but it also doesn't really surprise me because usually when you can't find these things, it's always a rights issue. Like,
yeah,
maybe EC Comics was pissed off. Like, oh well, like we got skipped out of we never made any money out of this in the first. But maybe they got a raw deal and they're jealous. Maybe they're not proud of those episodes, and the owners of whoever holds the rights to it now is like just holding out for an obscene amount of money.
So I found a playlist on YouTube, and it's basically got everything through season 8. So we'd still have to find seasons 9 and 10. But yeah, I'm looking at this, and like the animation looks somewhat different. Like I don't remember any of this.
The art it's weird. Like their eyes, for like I remember like when like they would blink or something like that, their eyes look different. I don't know how I would explain it.
This has like a completely different intro that drops in a couple of frames of like the live
action
movie.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never watched an episode of this.
There's like a new human character who hangs out with them who also has some kind of a mutation.
Damn it. He's gonna do it to me again. Motherfucker.
If we can.
Jesus.
Yeah, for whatever it looks like he's got a bunch of shit uploaded, and for whatever reason, like seasons 9 and 10, he has hidden. I mean, if
Probably
we
a
can find
copyright
a way to do this,
strike.
I am on board with this.
I'm down with it. Yeah, I don't want to have to get Apple
season
TV,
1.
man. Although if I
I think you just buy stuff on there. I don't think you.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Purchase a
streaming on
subscription.
Apple TV. I think you have to actually just go to Apple's website and
I'll
buy the individual
I'll
episodes.
check. I'll check because then maybe I can. I know they put out this great dinosaur documentary, and I'm a sucker for that shit.
I mean, we have like months before this
Yeah.
would be a thing if we ever tried to do it. Yeah, it looks like it looks like season 8 is available, not legally, but someone uploaded it.
It's available, Steve.
Yeah,
That's legal to us.
seasons 9 and 10 we might have to buy if we want to do this. But that's a problem for future us. Man, you want to talk about like? Because I was just thinking like Ninja Turtles has like an animation change, and same thing with Batman, and so it's like seems like a lot of the series that we all grew up with, like towards the end of their lives, like changes were made. And you want to talk about some bullshit, Ronan? Do you remember when the real Ghostbusters became Slimer and the real Ghostbusters?
Yes.
And it became like the Ghostbusters were like
Side characters to
essentially.
Slimer.
Like the creators of the show were trying to like get new little kids to start watching, so they made Slimer the star, and every episode was about Slimer getting up to shenanigans, and occasionally the Ghostbusters would be there.
I think at one point, like Slimer just was not in the ghost house at all, just in a completely separate house with kids or something like that. It's like they did that with that. Like, do you remember? I think you were watching these shows too, Steve. Do you remember when Cartoon Network changed the art style and the voices for like Dexter's Laboratory, and they also changed Johnny Bravo?
I tapped out on a lot of the Cartoon Network originals around that time.
I don't blame you. They were like, because like the first season, because Dexter I think only has like 2 seasons. The first one is like super long. It's like 40 fucking episodes, and then Cartoon Network re-ups it for a second season, and it's not Gendy Tartakovsky. It's somebody else doing it. So the art style changes, the voices change, everything in it changes, and it sucks. And with Johnny Bravo, they did the same fucking thing to that.
All right, I found another play. This is a playlist where some guy just went around and found other instances where people had uploaded, and it looks like I got everything but maybe the last 2 episodes.
You see, people wonder why I like YouTube so much.
There's a line of thinking where it's like, hey, look, if YouTube's allowing it to be on their platform and nobody is copyright striking it, there's a tacit, okay, then this is fine.
This is like kind of a similar issue. Like I've never watched this guy, but there's a YouTuber called like The Completionist who 100% games, and he apparently just spent like $20,000 downloading, or at least purchasing, so he could download it in the future, every single game released on the eShop for the 3DS and the Wii U because Nintendo's about to
shut
pull the plug on those.
Yeah.
And he's like, these games are just going to be lost. And so he's bought copies of all these games. So
he's trying to archive them, for like some form of archival purposes, so they just won't be gone.
Yeah, but another thing is like he's making a couple of arguments. One of which was like I guess like the argument against piracy is you're taking money away from the content creators, and I don't think he's advocating for piracy, but he's trying to say like if Nintendo sues us, like how can they make the argument we are taking the money away for something that's not being sold in the first place? But he was also talking about like why can you not like there should be a way for people to just rent these, like basically like produce a ROM and allow people to rent them. Like you can rent a book, you can rent a movie. Like why can't you rent a digital game in some way? So it's like it seems like this guy is going to start trying to make some arguments that hey, if something isn't being sold, if something isn't readily available, you should have the right to go and find it yourself.
Well, I've made that argument with Matt before. We were talking about like piracy of stuff. Like if you want to play like if you're wanting to play like Chrono Trigger, I don't think that's on like the PlayStation Store, like or anything. It's probably on Steam. But let's suppose that it isn't. If you wanted to play that or some other obscure Super Nintendo game. We'll just pick any random obscure Super Nintendo game. If you want to play that, there's no legal option for it because it's like, what if the cartridge is rare and you can't find it? Yeah, maybe you can get a Super Nintendo, but you can't get the actual cartridge. So it's like, what else are you going to do outside of going to some website that has the ROM up?
Yeah, my favorite game of all time is Star Ocean: The Second Story, and they remade it remaster, whatever. This came out in like '97, I think. In like the mid 2000s, they remastered or remade the game, and it came out on the fucking PSP, and that was it. It's nowhere else. Like, and they're not selling the game anymore. PSPs aren't being sold. The game was never made available for digital download.
Yeah.
How do I get this game if I want to? Like, I'm willing to legally purchase it. How?
Yeah, like there's no way to do it. Like because like the people who like for Star Ocean, maybe I don't know what company is that Square Enix that does Star Ocean, or is that a different company?
I think they publish it, but Tri-Ace is people that made it. I don't know.
Yeah,
there are multiple companies with their hands involved.
Yeah. So their game that they made no longer has it's no longer available for retail purchase anymore. So I mean, in that instance, it's like you don't really have any other option but to try and find a ROM of it.
I wonder if there's like a way in which, because this comes up with like the library a lot. My local library is basically like a video store from the 90s. It's got 1 million movies. It's got tons of video games. Like, I'll just be like, hey, the new Spider-Man game. That's how I got the Spider-Man game, as I just went to my local library and I checked it out. That cost me nothing, right? And in theory, like the library paid for one copy of this game, and hundreds of people have probably checked it out and played through it, right? So the publisher, whoever publishes the Spider-Man game, Sony or whatever, they're only getting paid for one copy of that game. Whereas hundreds of people over time have been checking this out from the local library and playing it, potentially causing them to lose out on thousands and thousands of dollars. Now extrapolate that just at my local library, but all around the country. I'm sure there's thousands of libraries that have, the Spider-Man game or whatever. So, but the thing is, Sony does not care if anyone does this. So Sony is aware that, oh yeah, these are all going to go to libraries. People are going to check them out. We're going to lose money this way. But if they don't care, then is it a problem? So for whoever makes your Star Ocean game, are they going to say, absolutely not, Steve, we do not want you to ever play this game again, and if you do play this game, you're going to have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops, whatever. Or if they're just like, whatever, dude, it's out of print, go for it. Do whatever you can to find it. Oh, you have our blessing. So there's that line, is the content owner, number one, is the content owner okay with you doing this, going out and finding it? Perfect example. So there's a video I did on Night of the Scarecrow on Outpost Unknown right now. So I talked to the director, Jeff Burr. That movie is completely out of print. There was a DVD, or a Blu-ray that was put out 15 years ago by this little tiny indie company, but you cannot find it anywhere. You would not. I mean, you could go buy a second-hand version of it on Amazon, but it's $150. Is that reasonable to ask someone to pay $150 for a Blu-ray of a movie? I think most people would say no, but I don't. But even the director's I don't care. He's as long as you can see, I just want the movie out there. He's I'm not looking to make any money off of this thing, and neither is the company that originally had it. That company's out of business. The company that originally put out Night of the Scarecrow is gone. They no longer exist anymore. So what? Where's the gray? Is it okay at that point in time? Is it morally okay and justifiable because the content creator who created is yeah, do it?
I think if the person that created it says go for it, then yeah, it's just you're never going to get a video game company to endorse piracy, even if something is out of print. But that's kind of a question I have. Should there be a requirement that created content always be made available, and if the content creator or the content owner decides, you know what, I'm not going to make this available anymore, at that point, do they get what they get?
Well, it's a fascinating question, because we also have public domain laws, right? At a certain point in time, all of this shit, at least in the United States, goes into public domain. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We could go out and make a Frankenstein movie. We don't have to get the blessing of Mary Shelley's estate to do that. We look at that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think in 2035 or something like that, Batman becomes public domain.
Yeah, I mean, look at Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, right? Certain Winnie the Pooh stuff is now in public domain, and anyone can go out and make that stuff. So, if I decide to, you know what, I'm not going to pay, I'm not going to buy the original Winnie the Pooh stories, right? The non-Disney ones. I'm not going to pay the person for their book. It's now in the public domain. Do I have to pay? Do I have to pay for that book, or is that book now quote unquote free?
My argument would be, if something is being offered for legal purchase, it's piracy to get it in a different way. So my argument would be, if something is implicitly unavailable, there is no legal way to procure a movie, a book, a DVD, a video game, or whatever, it should be completely fair game to just go and download a copy. But if the Winnie the Pooh book is out there, it's on a bookshelf and it's available for purchase, I feel like you still need to buy that.
Yeah, well, it's let's take I think the movie's Near Dark, the Bill Paxton Lance Hendricks movie.
Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah, I don't think if I remember hearing a while ago, that movie's completely out of print. There is it was available on DVD. I think you can get a
Anchor Bay had a version of it because I have it.
But that was years ago. Currently, right now, there is no running print version of that movie for you to buy. If you want to watch that, because it's not available on any streaming service whatsoever. Shudder doesn't have it. It's not on Amazon. It's not on YouTube. It's nowhere. You have no option to watch that movie unless you somehow got in and bought a DVD. It's like Dawn of the Dead. That's also completely out of print now at this point. So I think it's available on YouTube, but there's no 4K version of it.
Yeah, because that brings up a great question. It's like, okay, well, I could, like Near Dark, right? I could go into the secondary market and buy the movie, but someone's going to charge me, for example, $400 to be able to
Yeah.
get it. So, is it? I mean, at that point, that money's not going to the creators. That money's not going to Catherine Bigelow or anything like that. If I go to a pawn shop and I walk to their shelves and I see, oh wow, there's all these like rare out of print horror movies, or I'm going to buy all these movies at $2 a pop from my local pawn shop or whatever. None of that money is going to the studios, and yet the studios are fine with films being at these places. They're fine with people having access to these movies without paying them full price for them. So there's a whole other sort of I mean, it's like a movie studio is not going to sue a library because the library has a copy of Near Dark or something, and people are checking, or even something brand new. Like if I go to my local library, what's great about it is they constantly pump out new release movies. So I'm always seeing new release stuff. So at a certain point, John Wick 4, as soon as it's available on Blu-ray or DVD, it's going to be at my local library.
Shit.
Now, oh wow. Wow.
Come on, Ace,
Oh,
'cause-
no.
Or Heart. Oh,
Damn. That's
I
a
would have
bad beat.
also like gone on all that, Ronan.
That's a bad beat.
Yeah, I'm aware. Like right now, I could go and download a PSP emulator, and I could download a ROM of this game that I want to play, but I won't do it, and it annoys me because I know this game that I want to play is out there, and I would be perfectly willing to hand over cash in order to get it. And the content owner is not giving me the means to do that.
Well, did
Yeah.
the content owner say we don't want anybody to ever play this game, or is the content owner just like, we're lazy and we're not going to do it?
No, I
Because
don't.
that's
I
the,
don't
if the
think
content
there's
owner
ever
told
been-
you, if they said, yeah, I mean, fine, play it on the emulator.
No, like no video game company is ever going to come out and endorse emulation in any way. Like it's just like it's out of print, and fuck you if you want to play it. Like there's been no public comment. It's just they're just not doing anything with it.
More than likely, they probably don't think there's enough of a demand for it, or so there's some corporate bullshit legal reason as to why they won't take that PSP version, spend just a little bit of money to get it onto a format where they can put it on Steam or
Okay.
like the PlayStation Store or the Microsoft Store.
Well, let me play
And
devil's
then-
advocate here and go from a slightly different angle. So clearly, this game exists on an emulator, and clearly, there's probably many, many people who have downloaded this game and played it. The video game company must know, right, that this game is out there and people can download and play it. Could you argue that the very fact that the company who made the game has never come out and said, well, not even something minor like, we'd really appreciate nobody downloading this game. It's out of print for a reason. Please don't do it. But the fact that they've never said anything is sort of like a tacit, we're fine with it. Well, like we can't come out and specifically say, please download this game, because then that's going to cause repercussions for all games, and we don't want to do that. But the fact that we're just staying completely silent and not coming at you with lawsuits, we're going to find the IP addresses of all these people who downloaded this game that came out 20 years ago, or whatever. Could you argue that that's just them saying, yeah, we're fine with it?
You
We don't
could
care if you do
argue it, but would that argument hold up? No one knows, because emulation hasn't been properly challenged in court.
Yeah, it's never
anywhere,
been
to my
tested
knowledge.
legally.
Yeah, it's like, video game companies obviously don't want this to happen, because all of the laws around emulation and ROMs are fuzzy. I've looked into it, and it's supposedly ROMs and emulators are perfectly legal to have, but you got to get them yourself. There's when you get an emulator, there is a file that you have to upload into the emulator from the actual hardware. Now, you can go and download that file, and the download is supposedly illegal. Like, you're supposed to some way get the file off of the hardware that you own, which most people can't do. It's just take my word for it.
A lot of
emulation.
Hoops
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops. Like, ROM and emulation is like a legal gray area, and so it's not been properly challenged. And this is just like me soapboxing. I have no idea if this is true. I don't think video game companies want to properly challenge it, because what happens if they lose? Like, right now, it's a gray area. There are going to be people scared away from downloading things like me. Like, I won't do it. As much as I want to play this game, I'm not going to just download a copy off of, Ronin's ROMdatabase.com. Like, I'm not going to do it. Because I don't want to run the risk of breaking the law, because my very job depends on me being a law-abiding citizen. But it's like, what happens if, like, Square Enix decides, you know what, we don't want people downloading these games. We don't care if if the game's not available anymore. We own it. For whatever reason, we don't want you to have it, and if you download it, you're breaking the law. What happens if they take that case to court and they lose, and the court's like, yeah, we don't have a problem with an emulation, like, it's just data. I don't think any video game company is willing to actually sue, because there's the fear that emulation gets implicitly endorsed. Now, like, they will send cease and desist letters, like Nintendo specifically has sent cease and desist letters.
They love fucking cease and desist letters.
Yeah. They're not taking any. I mean, I don't think any of these have made it to court, because again, what happens if they lose? But Nintendo will absolutely go after, like, a website hosting ROMs and get them to shut down.
Yeah, it's weird, because you also have that sort of cultural aspect to it, right? Like, should any data ever be sort of unavailable? Like, once it's out there, shouldn't everybody be able to access it somehow? Like, shouldn't I be able to get the Tales from the Crypt episodes some way, somehow?
And like I said, like, I would make the argument, and I think this is kind of an argument that the completionist is trying to make, like, it's not piracy because you are not taking money away from a company if the company is not actually offering this good or service anymore.
Yeah, that's my thing too.
But John Wick is for sale, right? So whoever, Lionsgate or whoever's got all the John Wick movies are available right now to buy for $6 on whatever streaming service, or Amazon, or whatever they want to do. DVDs, Blu-rays, those are all available. However, you can also get them for free from your local library, and the movie studio doesn't care. Like, ostensibly they would say, okay, well, we want so if I have one copy at the library purchased it for $15, right, that initial buy, the movie studio would want Steve, Ronan, and myself to each buy our own individual copy, whether it's download it via Amazon or a Blu-ray or whatever. But all three of us, we could walk in and check out John Wick, even though it's available right now. But you don't own it anyway. That's the thing. Like, because the whole thing with movies is you don't own the movie. Even if you buy the Blu-ray, you don't actually own the movie. There's no own. Like, Sony or Lionsgate still owns the movie. You basically own a disc that movie that they own is allowed to stay on.
The thing with the library, which is why I don't know if this is like this. I don't know if this is like a I don't know if the argument evens out. Is like more or less what the library is doing is the exact same thing that like Blockbuster Video and Hollywood Video were doing back in the '90s. So like that ground is already established.
But
so it's like
the thing that the libraries, they'd pay a lot more for a movie. Like Blockbuster and all them, they didn't pay like, oh, we're going to pay $15 to the studio for one copy. They'd pay like $80, $90, $100 sometimes. Like, well, VHSs were ridiculously expensive. Yeah. And so the movie studios felt that, okay, well, at least we're getting a decent return here, because we're basically charging them a price point where that multiple people would otherwise be buying that individually if they had that opportunity. So we're making up at least some money.
Something occurs to me now, like libraries, like those are like that's like a government service, isn't it? Like so, like there's
Most
probably
of them,
some
yeah.
yeah. So there's probably some government, like there's probably some kind of like government program or something like that that falls into.
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's just my assumption. Like that's a public service. So there's probably some there's like money is exchanged in some way for it, and
Well,
the
yeah,
studios are just probably like, more people are going to buy it anyway. This is a minor loss.
Well, it's interesting to me because, for example, my local library, there was a Charles Band's book came out, and my local library didn't have it, and I just put in a request. Can you buy this book so that I can read it? And you can do that. Most libraries will allow you to put in a request, and then libraries, obviously, they have money. They get money from whether there's their local city governments fund them, or they make their own money off late fees and things of that nature. They bought the book for me, and I then checked it out and read it. But now anybody can check out that book. Charles Band is not going to get any money from this being available just publicly. And these are things that are trademarked, they're copyrighted. Just like I think your thing with the video store is very apt, because all these movie studios, yes, they want people to buy it, but they're perfectly okay with all of this content being out there to share, right? I could buy a movie and be like, hey guys, I got the new John Wick Chapter 4. Come on over to my house and let's all watch it together. Instead of going to the movie theater, instead of paying Lionsgate, X amount of dollars with your movie ticket, just come on over. We'll watch it here at my, or, a pay-per-view, right? WrestleMania is coming up, right? Pay-per-view, $50 or however much it costs. Do you think WWE would want each individual person to pay $50? Of course they would, because they'd make way more money that way. Or does one person pay $50 and then all the friends come over and hang out and they all watch it together?
Well, important note, like we still refer to them as pay-per-views, but WWE pay-per-views haven't been pay-per-views in like 7 or 8 years, because they all go on the net. Like I know the WWE network is part of Peacock now, but that's like more or less now, like they make money from it via subscription service.
Well, what if you don't have Peacock? Can you still watch it? Can you buy it to watch it?
I believe technically, I believe there still is a pay-per-view network service in order to buy it, but that's like, like let's take 100% of wrestling fans. I would be stunned if more than like 5% of people actually pay for it via pay-per-view, but I believe it still is available for that. But by and large, they switched over completely to like a subscription payment model.
Well, regardless, the point still
like,
stands.
AEW use then? Because now I'm curious about pay-per-view. Like WWE, is owned or streaming on Peacock. Like, there's not an equivalent thing that AEW is.
Not that I'm aware of.
Do they just have normal pay-per-view?
Yeah, I think they do. When AEW was first starting up, like 3 whatever years ago, a friend of mine, she was super upset when like pay-per-views were starting to come out, and they're like, "How dare they charge $35 for this pay-per-view? This is ridiculous. It shouldn't cost any more than such and such." And I was just sort of like, "The fuck is wrong with you? I remember purchasing the Royal Rumble for $50. You're get the fuck out here with that shit. Like $35 is cheap for this shit. Like, these things cost a lot."
Yeah,
this is ridiculous that it costs this much. Like, no, that's normal.
I'm looking at Google here. It says for WrestleMania, it says you can order both nights of WrestleMania if you don't have internet speeds, or if you don't have premium subscription through Peacock or whatever. You can order both nights of WrestleMania through your cable or satellite provider at a pay-per-view price of cost of $60.
Because WrestleMania used to be like $100.
Okay, well they dropped the price.
Got
Allegedly.
another piracy question. So here's another caveat or another scenario. So like the version of this game that I want to play is the remake, right? But
Yeah.
I own the original version. It's an old PS1 game. I own it. Sometimes I want to play it, but like, my PS2s are 20 plus years old now. Like, eventually PS1s and PS2s are going to stop working. There's a PS1 emulator. Should I be able to go and get that emulator and download a copy of this game if I've already purchased the physical version? And my problem is the hardware required to play the physical version is no longer functional.
Yes, I would say yes. If you have paid your money, at whatever point you have bought the physical media or whatever version, whether it's digital or physical, that they requested of you, you have the right to keep a copy and maintain a copy of that regardless. So
And
I
so
don't
that
consider
is-
that piracy.
That's part of the fuzzy emulation and ROM law. Again, like it's fuzzy, but my understanding is
I'm sitting out. I'm sitting out for a second. I'm going to let Frankie go outside.
okay. My understanding is you're correct. I am allowed to have a digital copy of this game. The problem is I have to produce my own digital copy of this game. I am not allowed to go and download someone else's digital copy. I have to somehow get the files off of my disc and produce a digital copy myself, which is not as simple as putting the disc in your computer and hitting copy paste.
Yeah. It would be a lot easier to just make like a digital copy of a movie than a video game, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
that's the fuzzy law. Like, I feel like I should be able to. I purchased this game. I should be able to get a digital. I should just be able to go online and get a digital copy of the game that I've already paid for. But if you want to be 100% legally correct, you can't do that.
yeah, me personally, I would be like, look, even if you were to go to court for whatever reason, be like, look, here's the physical copy of the game. I own it. I paid for it. This is my thing, and like, I have to get this to play it. Like, I own the game. I need a way to play this very game. Again, I don't think that's piracy at all. Because you can sleep well at night, in my opinion. It's like, look, I gave the company money.
Well, I don't care about sleeping well at night. I care about keeping my job. It's like, you gotta walk that straight and narrow.
Yeah, I hear you. It's an interesting topic for sure, because I mean, I've been very. I guess one of the things that we can bring up, and we'll just turn this into a Two Matts One Steve episode, I guess, because I am recording this, so.
Oh, great!
We'll turn this into
Well,
that.
I don't think we knew you were recording, so make sure you edit this before it gets posted.
I will edit. One of the interesting things about this is we ourselves are content creators, right? So we have made movies in the past, and many of them you can go to Outpost Unknown right now and you see a bunch of the bad horror movies we've made in the past. But people immediately, we made a Blu-ray of Chills Down Your Spine, for example. Currently, that film is unable to. It's out of print, as you would say. There are no more Blu-rays available for people to buy. I get messages fairly routinely through various social media. Usually our Instagram page was like, hey, where can I get a copy of this movie? I'm like, you can't. It's not on Amazon to stream. There's no physical media anymore because we don't have the money to just keep printing thousands of Blu-rays for people to buy every now and then. Low budget, no budget filmmakers, no funds for that kind of stuff. So when we put the movie out there, I remember one of the first thing that happened is boom, it was torrented immediately, right? So you sell the Blu-ray to somebody at a horror movie convention, and the next thing you know, they've ripped it from the Blu-ray and they've uploaded the entire film to Pirate Bay or whatever. And I think about how that made me feel. It made me feel very shitty, right? Because when you put in all this time, work, energy, and effort, it's like we're just trying to break even on what we put into it. And when all this stuff is just sort of released out there, it becomes so easy for someone to just take it. There's an emotional reaction to this when you are someone who is a content creator that that hurts, and you have that sort of immediate, what the fuck? Why would you do that? But on the same token, like you said, there's no way for anybody to watch this movie, you know, in its full unedited, non-boob-filled YouTube form. There's no way for people to view it. So, how should I feel about that?
I mean, at the time, like you were trying to, because there was a point where we were out there selling these things, and if it was getting torrented, then I fully support feeling shitty. But
have you guys solved piracy yet?
We're working on it. Like we're not doing anything with it. Like if you tell me today that Outpost Doom is getting pirated, I wouldn't care. If you told me 12, 13 years ago when we were going around the convention circuit and you told me that Outpost Doom was being pirated, I'd be pretty annoyed then.
But it comes down to that sort of philosophical point, right? What if I, as a content creator, says I don't want you to pirate it? It's my choice that it's not out there, not available, and it's bullshit for you to do it. So, Steve, I don't care how much you want to watch Chills Down Your Spine. You are not allowed to because I, the content creator, say so. I mean, does it work when you think of it that way? Exactly.
No.
So, why would if you don't care about, like, for example, in that scenario, why would you care about the video game company saying that to you?
Well, it's not about, like, do I think it's, like, I'm only concerned about the legal implications of this. Morally, like, I wouldn't really care either way. I feel like we're talking about two different things. Like, morally, fuck these video game companies. I don't care if someone steals all their product. But it's it's like I want to be law abiding, and so I care about the law.
You have a principle and you're standing by it.
If I was not concerned about the law, I would have significantly more games and movies and shit than I do now. But like, if the argument is just like, what if the content creator, like, you're not making it available, but also, like, you don't want people to find ways to get it?
Yeah, like George Lucas with the original versions of the Star Wars trilogy. Original OT trilogy.
My opinion then is I don't care about your content creator opinion. Like,
well, it's like I don't even think I don't think content creator is actually the right term for this. It's because like the content creator
owner.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's the owner of the IP. Like the content creator for it's not the I don't know E.T. Like that that content is Steven Spielberg created content, but he doesn't own the IP. At least I don't think he does. That would be like Universal Studios. They own that IP, so it doesn't matter if Steven Spielberg's like, I don't care if you pirate E.T. Go for it. That's what, a 40-year-old movie. Who fucking cares? Like I like a property. Like it's not the creator. It's the owner of the intellectual property.
Yeah. I mean, it's like on YouTube when we get copyright strikes, right? On videos, because that owner of that IP or whatever it is, whatever piece of music is playing in Fortnite, they're like, copyright strike, right? You're going to give us either a cut of whatever profits you eventually make off this video, or we're just going to make you take it down entirely because you're not allowed to use it.
I think once you have produced like some form of entertainment, like there's no like putting the genie back in the lamp or the toothpaste back in the tube, whatever the proper phrases are. Like I think once you release it, you continue to make it available in such a way that you are making money off of it. And if you ever stop that, if you ever decide, you know what, I'm pulling the plug on this, then I kind of feel like morally, I feel like you have like lost the right to be upset that people still want to see your movie, your game, your book, whatever. Legally, you're probably going to be covered, but I think producing a movie, a book, a game, whatever, and allowing it to be purchased for a couple of years, and then pulling it back to where there's no longer a legal way to get it. I don't know. I just kind of feel like that's stupid.
I agree that's stupid.
You don't really like have a leg to stand on. It's like I go back to the argument that if you are not selling it, then you are not losing anything by me going and getting it from somewhere else. And so I don't think you have an argument. I would love to actually see a court case about this, just out of curiosity.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference between going to a ROM site and downloading a ROM for Super Mario World, which Nintendo still actively charges for. You can purchase that game on any of their streaming sites because, of course, you can. It's Super Mario World. Versus one of the thousands of other Super NES games that are not available in any way, shape, or form for legal purchase where, the person who owns the rights to it actually gets a cut of it. And in those instances, it's like, yeah, that literally, I guess, would be a victimless crime. There's no cash cannot transfer to a proper hand in that case.
I also think there's a niche factor to a lot of this stuff as well. So people can torrent movies, but I don't think the vast majority of people in the United States have any idea where to go to find a torrented movie, how to get them downloaded. I know there's peer-to-peer software. I mean, Plex, right? That's essentially a torrenting site. I won't get
Pirate
Plex.
Bay.
I won't get a Plex because I don't believe in it. It's like everybody in the Discord that we view, they all have Plex, right? So it's like, hey, Steve, you don't have one, but I'm just using you because you're here. Steve, why don't you put up this movie? And Ronan, why don't you put up this movie so I can watch them? So I can have access to them. Well, I'm not paying for that stuff. It's like the movie version of Napster, in my opinion. It's just you're uploading all of this stuff, then people can easily access it. But a lot of pirate sites, I wouldn't know I wouldn't even know where to look to be able to do any of that stuff. And
we are a bunch of unadventurous squares.
We're very milquetoast.
I know, at least at the very least, I know how this stuff worked back 8-9 years ago. I haven't used any of these things forever. But yeah, there was a time where I knew how BitTorrent worked, and I knew I could go on to Pirate Bay and find the torrent of the thing that I wanted. I haven't done it forever, so I have no clue if it still works that way or not.
I'm sure it works the same way.
Yeah. If not, I could always ask, a particular someone in the chat who we've already name dropped several times tonight.
The pirate captain.
I mean, I think of all of there's so many video game YouTubers that I watch that are just like, I don't own a copy of this game, so I'm emulating it. It's like, here's evidence of me potentially committing a crime, and it's like, I mean, again, clearly, so few actual owners of the game or whatever actually give a shit about this. But I just want a final answer.
But here's the thing:
Nintendo, sue somebody so we can get the courts to say emulation is okay.
I think they actually, now that I think about it, I think they did take a ROM site to court, and that site ended up having to pay Nintendo a few $1 million or so, and that they weren't even doing it in a piracy sense. They were just trying to archive these games because once the batteries in these cartridges die, the games are gone. So they were like, well, no, we want a record that these games existed. And Nintendo was like, nope. Due to the Nintendo seal of quality, it's on all those NES cartridges. We ultimately own we ultimately have ownership right over all of these things. And so we archival be damned. These games can disappear. Pay up.
Fuck
yeah,
you,
it's just
Nintendo.
it's so weird why companies. I mean, why would you not want to have every game you've ever done available and be like, this is the way to get it? this is the way to go. I mean,
To a
we're
certain-
gonna charge $2, right?
To a
you don't have to
certain
pay full price.
To a certain extent, I understand why you wouldn't do that to literally every game you got, because like ultimately the cost is like there's going to be a cost benefit reward like sort of thing to it. You're not going to make enough money to justify the amount that's going to cost for like servers and shit like that to
Yeah,
to
but
put
how
these
many
games
people
up.
are gonna go buy Star Ocean?
Probably
like,
like Star
One that matters.
like if Star Ocean's one of those like that's a franchise that has enough of a fan base to where that probably money could be made off of that.
Oh yeah,
Ta-
like it's Star Ocean 2 is the most popular Star Ocean game in the series by far, and it's the only one not available on modern systems.
Yeah. It's like so like you take that versus any of the the PlayStation 1 was like the Super Nintendo, just thousands of games on there that are just gone. There is no like there's no way to actually they're not available for legal purchase in any way, shape, or form now. And a lot of the companies that produce those games don't exist anymore. And I don't think PlayStation had the same kind of like ownership sort of thing for games on like for games that appeared on their system like Nintendo put on the Super Nintendo. So like let's take like Soul Reaver. Like Soul Reaver does not exist on any modern console. If you want to play that, you either got to dig up an actual disc that isn't fucked to hell, a PlayStation, and then work out how to connect that thing to a modern TV, or you emulate it. Which that's probably because again, there's no option to legally play that game. Like you can't go onto the PlayStation Network and purchase Soul Reaver.
Alright, Ronan, I'm gonna need you to go and pirate a bunch of shit, get yourself sued, and then present all of our arguments in a court of law.
Why can't I have a better idea? We get the Pirate King to do it. We set the Pirate King up because he's just doing what he already do.
What's funny about this is there's also the element of like what you said, Ronan, cost ratio. If Steve were to be like, fuck it, I'm downloading Star Ocean 2, come at me, bitches, and Square Enix, whoever's like, you know what, we're gonna sue the hell out of Steve, they would spend so much more money in lawyers than what the game would be worth. Steve could just throw $60 on the table like, you want to settle? There. Here's your $60. They would pay their fucking lawyers $100,000 to try to like go after him for what, a $60 game? I mean, come on.
Maybe that's another reason why like none of like so little of this has actually been hashed out. It's just not. They're probably making enough money off selling new games that it's not worth going after the, I don't know, pennies that they're losing when someone downloads a ROM of Star Ocean 2.
Yeah. The sad thing is that while I'm certain a market exists for something like Chrono Trigger or Star Ocean or the Soul Reaver or insert any of the the whole trove of like bullshit that came out in the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation 1, the market, there is a market for some of those games, but not all of them. So I mean, like you take the ones that are actually in demand, and let's take the ones that are in demand, put those on a site, and the other ones, I guess, just for archival purposes.
Maybe we just need a rule that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just like let me just download Star Ocean 2, the remake, and be like, I'll just PayPal Square Enix $30. You'd be like, here you go.
Transfer me to your accounting. I am willing to pay full retail.
Don't
value.
even tell them what it's for. Just say, hey, I'm a fan. I like what you're doing. Here's $30. And then you can sleep at night and be like, look, I paid for this thing that I got from them. Hell, even go up and above it. Here's $100, Square Enix, for all the joy you've given me in my life, and what you will continue to give me in my life for the next few days after I got this ROM of this game.
I would say that part of the argument for some of the stuff could have also been that it cost the company more money to take Star Ocean on PSP and do a few code tweaks to it to the engine or whatever it's running in to get it to run on Steam or something like that. But but Nintendo fucking sold a piss poor emulation of Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario 64 2 or 3 years ago on one big Mario Anniversary Collection. And people got they got the copies of they got the Switch they got the cartridges, the Switch cartridges, plugged them into the computer, cracked them, and found out wait a minute, this is just a fucking emulator. They didn't even redo the code. They just took an emulator. Yeah, that's why the aspect ratio and the resolution is so shit, because Nintendo just put these they emulated it. They put a fucking ROM. They did the same thing that they sue people over.
Maybe what we need is just a rule that says, specifically for video game stuff, that after X amount of years, let's say 10 or 15 years, these games, anything can be done with them in their original versions, right? If it's a if it's like Resident Evil 2 remastered or something, clearly you wouldn't want to basically steal that because, hey, they put a lot of money into it. They're trying to, they've added things. It's a different game in many ways. But let's say something like Star Ocean 2, it's past sort of its 15, 20 year threshold. Therefore, we don't expect any significant amount of money will be made from this. That's good. Or when the next generation of consoles come out, every game before that, boom, it's fair game. That came out and the stuff before it, it's just, it's sort of public. What's the word I'm looking for?
That would make my life easier.
Yeah, it's like public domain stuff, essentially. It just becomes public domain at that point.
It's I think the best way to sum that up would be once the games come, and there's the answer. Now, once you have stopped producing actual copies of that game, you're it's out of print, for lack of a better word, and all that's left is what's on the retail shelves. It's okay, the cutoff, we stopped making new copies of Resident Evil 2 Remake. And so the day you stop doing that, add 2 years to it, and then after that, it doesn't matter if it pops up on a store or not, because it's if it pops up because there's no legal option to buy it anymore at that point, where the Capcom would actually make money.
So at that point, you put the responsibility and the onus on the actual owner of the property to keep it available. And once they sort of relinquish that responsibility and say, we're no longer putting this up, at that point it becomes fair game for anybody to try to obtain it, in a way.
Sure.
I mean, I think that would be the best way to do it. It's hey, as long as you are providing me with a way to legally obtain it, then you should legally obtain it. Once it becomes there is no longer a legal way to obtain it, again, I'm back to the argument of I'm not stealing from you if there is nothing for sale.
Yeah, exactly. It's again. I mentioned that with Super Mario World. It's oh shit, I didn't want to do that. I can Super Mario World still exists in Nintendo's eShops because of course it does. It's Super Mario World, A Link to the Past, of course it does. It's Nintendo. Those games are going to be purchasable. But if it's some other random Super Nintendo game where there is no the company that made this game hasn't existed for 20 fucking years, who's being hurt by playing the ROM?
Yeah. What if you want Mike Tyson's Punch Out? Can you get that? Or do they only offer the Punch Out without the Mike Tyson version?
I don't know. I would wager a bet Mike Tyson's Punch Out. It's probably on the Nintendo's eShop thing for the Switch.
Okay, I'm gonna look it right now. I'm gonna look this up.
I'm going all in next hand because I'm going to bed. We have solved piracy.
Thank you for
Or at
listening
least
to another episode of Two
we've
Mats
made
on
all
Steve.
of our arguments that we can. Yay, Ronan, apparently we were recording.
Yeah, I've been recording this whole time, Ronan. Just in case we got into a good conversation.
This is whole. How long is this episode?
Well, it's going to be cut way down, so don't worry about that. Okay.
All in next hand.
Nintendo eShop.
This is it. That's where I make all my money back.
I mean, nope.
I don't think it's available. They have Punch Out featuring Mr. Dream.
I think that is Mike, because I think once Mike Tyson got in a lot of trouble for being Mike Tyson, they took his name off of it.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I
but-
just
but
looked at my
Matt's-
cards. Damn it!
That's fine. You still got to go all in. But I mean, Matt's saying, like, what if you want the original version?
Well, at that point, it's a collector's item, like the one that actually is Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Well, I know that, but how do I get it? How do I access it? If I want
You
that
find
version.
somebody-
I mean, Nintendo will not get any money from me if I find some secondhand store with Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I'm not paying Nintendo anything for that movie or for that game, but they're offering a version of it, an inferior version of it.
Oh, there's a lot of
their eShop.
people. Come on. You're the
I am
last
not gonna
person.
win this.
Yeah, everyone is all in.
I
No,
am
look,
not
the
gonna
guy
win
with
this.
this. There's one guy who didn't go all in. He
Oh,
with his
screw
fucking
that
hat.
guy and his stupid hat.
With
I
his
am not
fucking
going
hat.
to win. Give me tens, please. Tens.
Give me aces. It's not an ace.
Nines.
Who is?
Ah.
Am I high carding this?
Give me a 10. Give me a
I
10.
think you are.
Ace,
I hate you
ace.
so fucking much.
Nines and... Oh my god.
You
Yeah,
fucking-
high card.
again.
High card. Yes. Oh, I got an
Jesus.
achievement for that. Ronan, I got an achievement that says Bustin' makes me feel good. And with that, I am going to bed.
Thank you, everybody.
I
Until
hope
next
you don't
time.
wake up, you fucker.
Don't be a pirate. PayPal your favorite company some money. If you're gonna
And then
ROM a
take
game.
what you want.
Yes, call Konami, get in touch with their accounting department, and tell them it's like I will happily send you $60 for a copy of.
I'm gonna
Metal
open
Gear.
this loot case I just got here. Let me see. Did I get anything good? A pair of glasses, silver rimless. All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.